Welcome to Attican Plays Railway Empire. All right, hi, this is Attican, and welcome to part 5 of our playthrough of the Dominion Day scenario from the Great Lakes DLC. And we've made great progress, and now we have some new tasks. We have to grow Thunder Bay, which is this little tiny town way up north, bordering on the lake, up in the snow areas. And what we're looking at right here is we're going to do a 2-city cluster beer meat line between Thunder Bay, which doesn't have an industry. So we're going to plop a brewery down there as fast as we can to make sure we don't get beat to it. And we're going to have a brewery in Thunder Bay. There's a meat industry up there in Moose Track, way up to the north. And we're going to see if we've learned anything through all this work we've done on the expansion. Because when you're in these situations with this snow and you're up north like this, you got to use some special techniques. You can't just use normal city growth. It just won't work because you get snowed out too much and your city will actually, any gain you get in the summer, you lose in the winter. So we have to make sure we do this right and use warehouses effectively here. So this is like a good test to see if we've learned anything so far. Now what I was doing right there is just connecting Thunder Bay to something so that it's connected to our network so that we can then go ahead and expand out and do the rest of the building that we want to do. We could put the warehouse in, that's no problem. We could have even run goods into that warehouse, but we couldn't go anywhere else until we had Thunder Bay connected. Now we're connected, and now we can move out to our next city. So what we're going to do again is we're going to have a 2-city cluster with Thunder Bay and Moose Track. And Moose Track is meat, Thunder Bay beer. So, and we're going to make heavy use of the warehouse again. I'm kind of repeating myself because there's not a lot to tell you. I mean, you can see what I'm doing here. We're trying to figure out. I'm trying to see if there's any way we could get the city and Moose Track. It's hardly a city. The little burg of Moose Track and another resource, but they're too far away. And right now, I'm kind of just wandering around looking to see where all the goods are going to come from. And I apologize for this. I gotta go all over the place because I'm thinking about two things. I'm thinking about our 2-city cluster, and I'm thinking about getting fur for the other task. Another task we have to do where we have to send fur to Sault Ste. Marie. So again, just wandering around here trying to figure out where are the goods going to come from. And what we're going to do here is divide up the goods so that about half go into the warehouse up here with Moose Track, and the other half go into the warehouse in Thunder Bay, and then they get moved back and forth. So this is we really are using the functionality here. So we've got our 2 warehouses set now, and we're picking out what's going to come from the Thunder Bay end of it. So you can see there's wheat right up there above us, and of course we've got beer down here. So wheat, beer, that's a natural. And we've got the cattle up there near Moose Track, so that's of course going to happen. There's corn nearby. We're going to pick that up. We're going to have logs from somewhere, we know. We're not sure where yet. And we're going to have the meat and the beer. And that will give us that's a great start to grow quickly. Now, as you know, I'm usually not a proponent of putting the meat and the beer in the warehouse. I like to see that come on my automatic lines. But with this new functionality of the warehouse, and particularly with the snow, the combination of two, the snow is the big kicker because you get snowed in and your trains won't run. So we've got to build up supplies in advance of the winter. That's our challenge here. So it's March, and we need to really get some supplies moving in to these warehouses so that they are functional. So now we're going to set up a connection between the Moose Track warehouse and the Thunder Bay warehouse. And you notice they have the same items selected. They have wheat, corn, logs, meat, and beer. That's your basic stock items for fundamental city growth for a small city, small town. And well, I'll get to it in a minute. A mistake I made, I'll show you that in a second. In a few minutes we'll get to that. But basically, we're setting up, of course, the line, and we're going to have a double track line, and we're going to set it up so that we can use all of the platforms at each end. So we're setting up our signals. And then and there's multiple ways you can do this, all kinds of configurations. If you have a favorite that you like really well, let me know what that is. I'll give it a try on one of the videos. But this is a technique I like, where you double track the middle two, then the outside ones you loop them in just past it. Then you put a set of signals right past that. That way, any train coming down through that main line can go to any one of those 4 platforms and come back out and exit off of any one of those 4 platforms. So it's a good, flexible, simple way to set it up. And assuming you've got your load balanced pretty well in the platforms, you shouldn't have a lot of traffic tie-ups. So again, you put your diamond in the middle, then you come in from the outside on either side, loop it in and close it off, or just past the diamonds basically. It basically will let you go right past those signals. Then you set another set of signals here. The reason you need the second set of signals is so that the outside lanes can get across and get over, particularly the one that's closest to us. If it's coming out to get over to the right, it has to have that crossing lane out there at the end in order to get over to the right-hand lane and drive on the correct side. So then you set your signals past that, and you got yourself 4 accessible platforms in a nice compact configuration. So we're setting up a couple of supply towers. It's a fairly long route. Everything's long on this map, just about. There are a few cities close together, but not a lot. So now we're going to start loading in goods into that warehouse as quickly as we can. And I decided to actually do it from the back. So we're going to do the same kind of configuration back here on the back side. We're going to have that same nice little flexible setup where you can go to any of the platforms, but we're going to do it out of the back end, and that's where our goods are going to come into our station. So we're going to run this line up to the wheat, and that'll kind of start our baseline, and we'll tighten that up a little bit. We'll tighten that up a lot, and that'll be our corn line, or sorry, wheat line coming in. And we built it, and you'll notice we kind of came straight out from the warehouse a little bit. That gives us the room to build our little 4 platform deal. And here it goes. Diamond in the middle. Then come in from the outsides and merge as quickly as you can. Same thing in the other direction, or the other side. And then put another crossing, another diamond, set of signals, however you want to call them, just past that. And now you got yourself the ability to use all 4 platforms. Come in, go out. So good. So now we've got the ability to put wheat in there anywhere we want, and we can bring other stuff in there with it. There's corn. There's the corn way up there. I don't know how anybody's growing corn in that weather, but God love them. There must be good farmers. So we got corn coming down from way up here in the north. So we'll hook that into our wheat line. And the one nice thing about having these warehouses, or your city if you're going to the city, and having all 4 platforms available is you can do stuff like this where you share that line. You don't have to build the line all the way down. So this is different from my totally dedicated lines. This is more of a sharing kind of a deal. So we're going to have a line back here in the back to feed a couple of things into the warehouse, and then we'll have the lines going out the front end going over toward the other city to move the goods back and forth. And we'll get into exactly how you do that in a little bit here as soon as we get this set up. So we hit fast forward there for a moment just to get build up some capital. You saw how fast it built back up. We've got lots of revenue sources now. We've got passenger mail lines running. We've got freight being moved all over the place. We've got freight in warehouses being consumed gradually by the cities, which gives us revenue. So we've got see, look how fast our money racks up here. I've got it on fast forward, but it's just in the time it's taken me to set up this line there, I realize it and slow down. But just in the time it takes me to set up that line, we grabbed $300,000. So it was at 10 seconds or whatever. So our basic our business is solid right now. We're making good money, and keep in mind now we're starting to pay off that $10 million debt. We've had that debt the whole time, but now we're paying it off at 4% interest. So it's hitting us for about $100,000 a quarter, but no big deal. And $100,000, you can see here, it takes us about 10, 15 seconds to make $100,000. So we're not too concerned about that. So we're just checking the warehouse. I kind of forgot to assign them to that's something I need to work on. I don't do this kind of thing very often. I use dedicated lines. This is one of the reasons, because I kind of get sloppy. But if you're going to use the lines like this, where you're doing the sharing and they're all coming in and then branching out to the 4 platforms, you need to be, have it in your routine to set the platform so that you're not just, it does you no good at all to set this up and then run everybody into the same platform. That would be a complete waste. Remember that we built that little line to give us the connection. We actually brought it off of a milk station out there in the country, and just to make our Thunder Bay connected to our network. So now we're just building off of that, and we're building out the city to city line. And I think if I had this to do over again, and I do, I can play this again, or I can play a scenario in the map. But at any rate, I think I would just go ahead and continue with those goods and get those goods going, because they're more important. The city to city line, notice we're putting our goods up in the warehouse, the beer and the meat. So that means that the city to city line is free to be a passenger mail only line, which is great. We can, get some good revenue from it, and we can move our freight back and forth between the cities, between the warehouses. But all it does is make money. Now that may sound a little silly, but all it does for us is make us some money. What makes the cities grow will be the line between the 2 warehouses, because that's how the goods get exchanged, and that's how both cities get their goods. Now here's where this is a pain, because we've got the thing where you can only have, a bridge can only be 2 wide. You can't touch it with a 3rd piece of track. So we've got to deal with that now, because we've got an extra track coming up through here. So we've got to kind of branch out a little bit and get away from the bridge, trying to stay as close as we can within reason, and then coming back like so. And I almost went up that way to the warehouse and realized, oh, wait a minute, that kissing that does me no good at all. I want to get back down here. There we go. Now we're back down in business. Now we're back hooked up with our line that's going to Moose Track. Oh, I keep calling it Moose Track. I think it's Moose Factory. Sorry. It's actually Moose Factory. So we're going up here to Moose Factory. And notice there I went back to my old familiar point-to-point style for that city-to-city line. Now, the truth is, I said if I was doing this again, I would finish out that whole freight thing first and then worry about the passenger. But remember, we've got enough money coming in that even if I have to, we have to fast forward maybe for a few seconds, and it'll run off a few days or a week or so on us. But that's all we would lose. We've really, for all intent and purposes, have enough money to be able to build out this whole system. So we can set up these lines, start running our passengers, and then we can go back and finish. But again, and I'll say it again, definitely would do the freight first. And the only way that would be an exception is if we were counting on that revenue. If this was early in the game, if we were just starting, maybe we would run the passenger line first and get them going and get some revenue coming in from that to help fund the setting up of the freight. But we're not in that situation now. We're in good shape, making good money. So now it's just a matter of building well and focused building to get to our task and finish off the task list. So we're running the Achilles, which is the fastest train available. Now the thing of it is, you're not going to get, I don't think we're going to get a lot of express lines up here in the north because of the snow. They're just going to get bogged down, and you're not going to get any speed records for sure and what have you. But just the same, having the fastest train we can get is what we want. So when it is running, it's doing well. Then when we get to our freight, we'll run the Canadian, which is a good freight train. So take note here that we're running kind of a standard, this will be an SOP for me, which is run my cattle directly into the city. So rather than take up a space and run it into a warehouse and have to move it, run it directly into the city. Just make note of that, and we'll talk about this a little bit more probably in part 6 coming up after this. But we'll definitely have a discussion about this little setup right here. I had a hard time getting this to work with that tight curve there. And remember, we said it in one of the earlier ones, if you can't get that track to lay down in one direction, just go back and try it the other direction, and sometimes it'll work out. So we got it working, and now we can go ahead and finish off our line. Now what I'm doing here is actually reacting, is rather than trying to go out and find every place I need to put maintenance, what I'm watching is as I get messages that tell me I'm having breakdowns due to bad condition, I'm figuring out where that train is going or coming from and putting in maintenance, because now we've got enough money we can afford maintenance, and so we can start putting it on our stations. But I don't want to go through and literally look at every single station. I'm just not that meticulous a person. So I'm just letting those error messages, that kind of the warning, hey, you got a broken down train here, tell me where I need to go add maintenance. And for those of you who maybe haven't watched as many of my videos about Railway Empire, one of the things that I do is standard courses. I do not build maintenance on my stations early on because it's simply a matter of money. Early on, you are trying to make money. You need money, period. And however you're going to get it, that's what you need to do. And spending it on maintenance is not the best expense early on in the game. Now, later on, when you get to this situation where your income is solid and you can make money almost or as fast as you can spend it, or almost as fast, which is kind of our situation now, you can afford to take down those $80,000 gulps and put in maintenance and start maintaining your vehicles. But when you are early on, you just don't have the luxury of spending that money. So now we're setting up logs to go in up there to the Moose Factory end. And running, of course, our freight train with it and making sure we get plenty of logs in the Moose Factory. So we've got logs going in up there. We've got corn and wheat coming in down at Thunder Bay. We've got our cattle going directly into Moose Factory. And now it's time to set up our warehouse to warehouse lines. And here I'm going to rename these warehouses because it's very confusing to set up a line between warehouse to warehouse. I always lose track of which one I'm talking about. So I'm just going to call it the Moose Warehouse. And I think I call this one the T-Bay, like almost like Tampa Bay, but the T-Bay Warehouse or something like that. Oh, Thunder Warehouse. Oh, that's even better. All right, so we got the Thunder Warehouse and the Moose Warehouse, and now I know which end's which, and it matters because now at Thunder, in the Thunder Bay end, we don't want to be taking.
For your business, your excellent work is more than just conducive.
Okay, I had let him finish talking, but you notice there we finished off a task to do 1.2 million in quarterly revenue and passenger traffic, and we just did that from natural growth, from having some lines set up. And of course, this one that we set up here didn't hurt either, but just the growth of our cities, natural growth, we're going to continue to increase that revenue. So that's the beauty of already having these passenger mail lines already set up. Anyway, here's the important thing here. We're going to run between two warehouses. There's no reason to just, if you don't watch out, you could set up a line and it would just carry meat back and forth, meat back and forth, back and forth. So what we want to do is say, okay, we don't want you to pick up. In the Thunder end, you do not need to pick up. Well, here we go. This is in the Moose Warehouse. Don't pick up the corn, the wheat and the corn and the that was wrong. The beer is what I mean. There we go. There, I got it right. Don't pick up the wheat and the corn and the beer that you just brought here. Don't take that back to Thunder Bay where it came from. Leave it alone. Leave it there. You want to be picking up logs and meat up here in the Moose Factory end. And on the Thunder Bay end, conversely, don't pick up the beer and the logs that you just brought from the other end. So leave them there. So here we are at Thunder, and we're saying don't pick up the meat that you just brought, don't pick up the logs that you just brought, leave them alone, and go about your business, taking back to the other end the things that they need. So in this way, we can safely shuttle goods back and forth between the warehouses. We will take the right goods back and forth between the warehouses, and that way, by having the two warehouses, we were actually able to set up relatively close. Now, nothing's close on this map. It's a big map, but relatively close. We're able to bring corn and wheat into our system at one end, we bring the logs into our system at the other end, and of course on each end we have meat on one end and beer on the other end, and we're able to move those goods across to the opposite sides so that both cities can benefit from all 5 of the goods, the 2 manufactured goods and the 3 raw materials. So lovely. So that's how you set up your warehouses to kind of communicate with each other, to kind of share resources without, and I'll say this again that bears repeating, don't just set them and go thinking, oh, they'll even out, it'll all be fine. If you sit and watch them, you'll see a train pick up 8 meat at Moose Factory, go down to Thunder Bay, unload 8 meat, and then pick up 8 meat and take it back to Moose Factory. I'm not kidding you. That's what they'll do. So tell them what to do. Tell them, and basically you do that by telling them what to leave alone, and then everything else is cool. Now we're looking for a place to get fur, and this is funny. I had found this actually doing a little scouting earlier, and I ended up picking the wrong one. So I'm buying a fur trading post that is actually farther away than it needs to be, and it's way up here in the cold and the mountains, and a pretty good piece away from Sault Ste. Marie, but that's okay. So what we're going to do here, remember this task is we have to take, I think it's 24 fur, I'm not sure the number, I think it's 24. We have to deliver 24 fur to Sault Ste. Marie. Now, Sault Ste. Marie has a demand for the fur because it does a trade. It's a trading center, and it trades the fur for alcohol. So it's trading the fur for alcohol. That's why it has a demand for it. So we're going to set up a little warehouse here whose job is to take in the fur and take in the alcohol. So that way Sault Ste. Marie has the ability to get the fur, trade it for alcohol, and then send the alcohol out to the warehouse for distribution. And to be honest with you, I thought I was kind of done at this point, that's all I needed to do. But we'll more about that later. So notice I'm running this line. Now watch this line. If you look carefully up to the right of our screen, right up there to our right, see, I turn over to that one going, there's the fur, but that isn't the one I bought. I bought the one even further up, even further away. So we're going to go an extra distance in the snow and cold to pick up our fur. Oops. Okay, now you notice I'm attempting to set, there we go, I got it, a double crossover here, and it worked just fine, goes all the way down. Still got a bridge here. Now we got a triple. It's over 700 miles, so that's a long way to carry fur. So over 700 miles. Now we'll have to work harder to get the crossovers going back the other way. Well, that one wasn't too bad. That one turned out to be pretty easy. You do find yourself getting better at it as you practice. Now, right up here, I start thinking about this, and I'm thinking, it's going to be a job to try to get across and make both of those work. Is it really worth it for a line that's just going to run occasionally with fur? And then I decide to really change it up and say, you know what? let's just set this up as a bridge. Let's not even, because these two lines are important. These are the lines that carry, well, especially that freight one, but both lines are important. The passenger line's going to make us some money. The freight is going to help us grow Thunder Bay, which we need to do, and grow both of our cities. So I just said, you know what, let's build bridges. Let's go over this with a bridge, and that way we don't have to worry about congestion. We don't have to worry about slowing down our trains. And again, when you're fighting the snow, sometimes just that extra saving a day or two can get that train into the station before it starts to really slow down. So now we've got our nice 700-mile delivery of fur into Sault Ste. Marie, and we'll start creating alcohol, or well, start trading for alcohol. So naturally, as soon as we get our fur delivery started, the snow starts hitting. That it's in August. So look at this. It's August, and snow is hitting hard enough up there. We're far enough up. Sorry, far enough up north that it's hitting us right away. So that means we're and you can see it hadn't hit further south. So beautiful. This map is awesome. They really did a great job with it. And the farther north you go, the more challenging it is. And in fact, I've decided after I finish this off, I'm going to go play one of those really hard scenarios, or free mode rather, where you play, Trainiac mode and snow on and all that stuff, and maybe we'll start in Thunder Bay. That would be a good place to start and see if we can build something out from Thunder Bay. Might even go further north just to make it worse. So Moose Factory is looking really good. It's growing nicely. And that means that it's just going to continue the traffic between Moose Factory and Thunder Bay. The passengers and mail will just become bigger and bigger and make more and more money for us. The freight will move more freight because each city will consume more as they grow. So your freight revenues go up, your passenger and mail revenue goes up, and you build two nice cities. Excellent. And it's just really hard to keep enough logs in there to keep things going. And notice up there, did you see those, our cattle trains are bogged down in the snow. What a surprise. They're way up north, and that's what happens. So you can see there too, we've got beyond growing Thunder Bay and moving our fur, we've got to hit a large quarterly profit. I forget what it was now. We'll see it again in a minute. And we've got to be connected to 8 cities of 55,000. So we've got a lot of work to do here. We've got to grow cities all over the place, or at least connect to them. So we've got a connection bonus for this milk. So why not drive the milk on into our city here? You notice I used a little Jan Jansen technique there to bunch those returning signals close together so that any trains coming back from their milk run, if they're held up waiting on loads, they can get up off the main track and get out of the way. So we're still waiting on our first fur to be delivered, even though we saw it take off as soon as we set up the route. So there's got to be some fur coming soon. And again, my favorite mistake, which is forget the towers. So here we see the benefit of having that stuff stocked away. As our cities are pelted with snow, our trains are almost stopped cold, the Thunder Bay continues to grow because we've got a nice supply of stuff in the warehouse. It can draw it down, and we're continuing to grow. Now we're looking for big cities because we have to either home grow our own or connect to them. And of course, we have limits as to where we can go. So we're looking to see where's the cities worth connecting to. We can see that Saguenay is actually the biggest city around. It's the only city that hit that 3-tier mark, which is 90,000 population. So it's a pretty good sized city, but it's the biggest one around. Our competitors are never going to do as good a job growing cities as we will. So Montreal's there. Quebec is actually a little shy. Quebec would be a good one to build up a little bit. Maybe and we'll see what we can do about it. It needs corn. Remember, we didn't have, and sugar. Remember, we didn't have corn or sugar down there in that close part. It needs milk as well. One option here would be, now that we have some corn, some milk, I think we even have, I'm not sure about sugar, but we have corn and milk for sure. We could bring that back to kind of a regional warehouse deal and let these places draw out of it.
Has been held out in prospect to me, as long as your business keeps up the strong engagement in border crossing goods traffic.
Okay, so we've got our quarterly revenue and passengers earlier, and now we've grown Thunder Bay to 36,000. And I'm telling you, with that snow and stuff, if we didn't use a warehouse and we tried to run our goods directly into that, maybe have their standard city-to-city automatic lines to feed the cattle and the beer, not only would we not grow, we might even lose ground because these cities will diminish when their supply gets bad. But there you can see, this is what I'm talking about. We've got Moose Factory is making meat for our beer meat line, and it has no cattle. Yet we have a cattle line very close to it, running directly into it. And that's because just that, it's running directly into it. When the snow hits, it only supplies enough to keep it going. We don't have that reserve. You need to build that reserve. So now, well, we're just looking around and notice Toronto's nice and big, and we'll just give them a museum. I love museums. They're my favorite building. So we're just looking around to see where we can find another 55,000 city or 2 or 3. And how's Moncton doing? It's growing. It's a good size, and it's growing. It's getting reasonable supplies. Remember, all it has is that little hookup to that warehouse and that over in Halifax, and that warehouse in Halifax is just getting goods from the warehouse in Saguenay. So there you can see how one warehouse feeding another warehouse is feeding both Halifax and Moncton, and Moncton's doing a pretty good job of growing. We can also see there's literally nothing in our warehouse, so we're not getting enough goods over there. That's a long way to haul them. So we need to find 3 more cities that will hit the 8. So right now I'm thinking, well, why not Thunder Bay? Why not Thunder Bay? I mean, I know it's in the middle of nowhere. I know it's got challenges with the snow, but we've got a good infrastructure set up to help it grow, so why not? So Thunder Bay could be one. You know what? Moose Factory could be one way up north. At this point, we've hit our passenger revenue target and we've grown Thunder Bay to its target. We're still waiting on the fur shipments, but we know they're on the way down from the from our snowy fur trading post up there. And we've got 5 of our 8 large, decent-sized cities, 55,000 population. So this is a good place for us to stop this episode. And in the next episode, of course, we'll continue to track those fur shipments, and we'll continue our city growth mode, and we'll try to finish off these 2 remaining tasks. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it'll help you become a better player, and I hope you'll join us for our next Railway Empire video. Thank you.